Okay, so in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the exact morning routine that I use that has got me straight A pluses for the last 3.5 years of my studies in engineering, and that has just allowed me to enjoy the whole process a whole lot more. Okay, so a good morning routine doesn't actually start in the morning. It starts the night before, and it starts the night before because by starting your morning routine the night before, you get to properly set intentions for what you're gonna do in the morning, and then you can wake up with that purpose, with that mission, with that intention, and then you can, execute your morning routine that much easier. It's actually really important to start your morning routine the night before because, you see a lot of people who will recommend, this is my morning routine. I wake up and I write down the things that I'm going to do during the day. But there's kind of an issue there because when you wake up, a lot of times you don't feel like doing anything, right? And so the things you're doing need to be laid out for you. They need to be already, ready to execute. But if you're waking up and you're immediately making decisions of what you're going to do during the day, well, that can be a lot more difficult, right? Because you need to get out of bed and then you need to make the decisions of what you're going to do during the day and plan your morning routine, but the morning has already started. And so it just doesn't really work, right? You need to be starting your morning routine the night before, okay? So how do you do that? Well, you get your phone app, your notes app, okay? And you literally just list your morning routine. Get the checklist, like on Notes on Apple, you can add a checklist button on like Notes or whatever, and just list your exact morning routine from when you wake up to the end of the routine. So you'll literally write like 6:30 a.m., wake up, and then you'll have under that wake up, you'll have, weigh in, and you'll have, gratitude journal, meditate, whatever your morning routine consists of, you're gonna have it listed like that. And then you continue through the rest of the day as well. So you say 6:30 a.m. and then you run through all your morning routine stuff, 7:15, go to school, 8:30, class 1, you write out your whole day, hour by hour, and you just fill out what you're doing in all of that time, right? And so this is very important to do because now when you wake up in the morning, you have an intention, okay? You have that mission. You know what you're waking up for. You're waking up to A, complete that morning routine, which is already set out for you, so you don't need to think about it. You just need to execute it. And then B, you have the rest of the day ahead of you, so you know that you need to get started and get this morning routine done, okay? You're waking up with a purpose. And if you don't write that down the night before, then most people, myself included, will wake up and not have that energy to do the things that you actually thought about doing the night before because you didn't actually set it out. You didn't make it easy to execute. So that's the first aspect of the morning routine. It's making your timetable the night before, okay? And I have a whole video about it here. You can check it out. But that's actually a very important aspect because without having that timetable there, you're missing that purpose, that mission, that drive that will take you through the rest of the day. So now that you have that timetable laid out, the next thing you do before your morning routine actually starts even is to go to sleep, right? You need to go to sleep at a decent time that allows you to actually execute your morning routine, right? Because if your morning routine starts at 6:30 a.m., well, how are you going to be able to easily do that if you go to sleep at 2 a.m., right? Or 1 a.m., whatever it is. So part of actually executing that morning routine is going to bed at a decent time, right? You want to make this easy for yourself in the morning. You don't want to be waking up tired, forcing yourself to, go outside, to cold shower, to do all these other things that people do in the morning. You want to wake up energized to do those things, right? And so in order to do that, you need to be getting to sleep at a decent time. And so how do you pick a time that allows you to wake up for your morning routine? Well, the important thing is that you're being consistent. So of course you should be getting 7-8 hours of sleep every night, but also those should be consistent hours. It shouldn't be like 11 to 7 and then 10 to 6 the next day. And then the next night you're doing 12 to 8. It should be consistent, okay? Because it's not just the hours of sleep that contribute to your rest and how much you actually recovered. It's the actual consistency of the sleep. Are you sleeping at the same time? Are you waking up at the same time? These things are also important too. And so what does that mean? Well, that means that if on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you need to get up at 6:30 to get to an 8:30 class, well, that means that on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and even Saturdays and Sundays too, you should also be waking up at 6:30, okay? So look at your schedule and figure out the times that you have requirements, either in the morning or at night. And then you need to play around with those and shift, finding that optimal sleeping blocks for you, okay? So for me, for example, I will often have classes at 8:30. That means that if I want to get up and do my morning routine and get to school on time, because it takes me over about an hour to get to school, well, I need to be getting up at 6:30 so I can get my morning routine done by 7:30 so that I can get to school for 8:30, okay? But let's say you have some sports practice at 9 o'clock at night, and so you don't get home and then asleep till 10:30. Well, that means that, you want to get your 8 hours. Well, 10:30 is now the earliest you can sleep because even though you can get to sleep earlier on the other nights, 10:30 is the earliest you can get to bed on those nights when you have that practice. And so that is going to be our bedtime. And so you need to look at your morning commitments, your evening commitments, and figure out what's going to allow you to get that consistent bedtime. Okay, so now that you actually have your timetable and you have your sleeping times laid out, we can actually get started on the morning routine. So my morning routine starts with waking up and making my bed. Okay, it's the first thing that I do when I wake up. And I know a lot of people say, it's pointless to make your bed. You don't need to do it. But it's not just the fact of you making the bed, right? Because making the bed itself doesn't make you, an inherently more productive person. It doesn't make you, millions of dollars and successful all of a sudden. But making your bed is your first win of the day, okay? And stacking these early wins is extremely important, okay? Because you know how bad it can feel when you wake up and you scroll on Instagram for an hour or something. It doesn't feel good to do this. Well, when you wake up and you execute your morning routine, and that includes stacking that first win, which is making your bed, that is the opposite feeling. It always feels good to wake up and get those tasks done. You are not better than making your bed. I'm not better than making my bed, and I've been doing this for a while now, okay? So wake up and make the bed, okay? It's a task that takes a couple minutes, but it's really the mindset behind it. The mindset behind waking up and doing something right away that is going to, let you start that day off right and let you continue into the rest of your morning routine and stack that first win. So wake up, make your bed. Okay, so after I make my bed, I quickly weigh myself, track those numbers down, and then I open up my gratitude journal. So a gratitude journal is essentially a journal where you write down things that you're grateful for, okay? And so if you've been online, you probably heard all the different people preaching about journaling and how good it is for you. But, it can be kind of difficult to get started. And gratitude journaling, I think, is not only one of the easiest, but also one of the most beneficial. It's literally been shown to boost your overall life satisfaction by more than what doubling your salary can do. You can double your salary, or you can just gratitude journal for 5 minutes a day, and the gratitude journaling is going to give you that bigger benefit. So gratitude journaling is exactly what it sounds like. You just open up a journal, do this on pen and paper. Don't do it on your notes. Don't do it on your phone. I mean, if you have to, sure, but it's not gonna be the same. Okay, so get a journal, a physical journal. Buy a journal. Okay, it costs a few dollars. Buy a pen, pencil, whatever you need, and you open up a journal and you just write down a few things that you're grateful for every day. Okay. And this is especially important, okay? Because if you're watching this video, you're probably always trying to improve in some aspect of your life. You're trying to, improve in your studies or improve these habits or improve whatever else it is, right? And so it's very easy to, get caught up in that, always wanting more, and always wanting to get better and improving, right? And that's good. That's totally a good thing. Now, if you get too caught up on that, sometimes you can kind of forget the progress you've made. Sometimes you can kind of forget the things you have. And so when you gratitude journal, you are forcing these good thoughts into your head. So instead of being, unhappy with something in your life and wanting to put in the work to change that, that's good. But when you gratitude journal, you are telling your brain to, be happy for the things that you already have. And then you still have that drive to want to do better anyways. So it's overall, just an improvement, right? Because it's less negative emotions. And so why do I say that this is important to do and valuable to do as a student, right? Because this is the morning routine that got me my A+ and stuff, right? Well, it's because of the mindset that it puts you in, right? If you gratitude journal, you are going to be, 10, 20, 30% happier every day. Because when you write down things you're grateful for in the morning, you spend 2-3 minutes, or just write down even 2-3 lines, right? Because you're forcing your brain to, write out these thoughts in the morning. Now your brain is just going to start generating those thoughts throughout the day, right? Because your brain is more used to generating those positive thoughts. And so when you have positive thoughts throughout the day, when you're generating positive thoughts throughout the day, just think about the effect of that on your studying, okay? It's not going to be profound effects, right? You're not going to instantly get A+, but, let's say you're 10, 20, 30% happier, 30%, more enjoying the day, more present during the day, feeling the day better, right? That's going to make a pretty decent impact, okay? And if you compile that with the other habits, which also might make a, 10, 20% impact on improving your day, well, now, your day is 50% better than it would have been. And if your day is 50% better than what it would have been if you hadn't have done all these habits, well, you're probably going to be studying 50% better. You're probably going to be procrastinating 50% less. You're probably going to be doing that much better in your classes. So, I could be offering you all these procrastination techniques or focus techniques or study techniques. Yes, these things are good, but they're really just a patch, okay? If you really want to just be such a strong student, the first step isn't learning this productivity technique or this study technique or any of this. It's just developing a strong mental. It's just being in a better, state throughout the day, right? Because if you're in this, 50% better state, 20%, 30%, 40%, if you're that much more fulfilled throughout the day, if you're enjoying the day that much more, that's going to carry so much more into your studying than some study technique, okay? And believe me when I say this, okay? The best advice for studying isn't to, do this practice exam and do this and do this. It's literally just to have good habits. If you have good habits, you're just going to strengthen your mental so much more. And that's really what's going to make the difference in your classes. So that's why I say, get out the gratitude journal, okay? Just write down a few things every day, and it's going to make a bigger difference than you think. So after the gratitude journal, the next thing that I do is I meditate, okay? And I've talked a few times earlier in this channel about meditation, but it's actually a very, very strong technique for improving your focus and improving your presence when you're studying, okay? So when you study and your mind drifts away from the actual things you're doing, or you can't really focus on the work, well, that's because you have poor presence. You're not able to continually focus on one thing at once. And what meditation does is it trains the skill of presence. So it actually enables you to A, focus on something for longer, and B, when you lose focus, it enables you to bring your focus back to that thing faster. And so, of course, you can obviously see how that translates into your studying, right? Because it allows you to focus on your studies better. And when your focus drifts away from whatever you're studying, you can bring it back faster. So meditate every day and just start at 3 minutes and work your way up. I know as a student, you're busy. So, 3, 5, 10 minutes, whatever it is, and you'll really actually start to see the results. I personally still see the difference in my ability to focus on days that I meditate versus days that I don't. Like the other day, I just forgot to meditate, okay? And I went to go do my work and my mind just couldn't focus. I literally was constantly drifting away from what I was working on. And I thought back and I'm like, yeah, I missed that meditation. And I was thinking about this later and I'm thinking, like even if this is placebo or whatever, it does something for me, okay? And it will really do something for you too, because when you sit there and when you are able to just continually bring your focus back to the breath, which is what you do in meditation, then it just strengthens your focus that much more. And when you're present more in day to day, when you're present more in your studies, well, now you're going to study better. And when you're present more in your relationships, well, now you're going to, communicate better. And when you're present more in the gym, now you're going to lift better. And all that presence, all that focus just comes from meditation. So when you start your day by training that meditation, it's going to strengthen you in all aspects of your life, studying, gym, fitness, whatever it is, right? And doing that is going to be, one of the most important habits that you can have as a student. All right, and after I meditate, the next thing I do is I just go outside, okay? And so, there's a lot of, scientific studies talking about, you can go outside this, go outside that, right? I go outside because it's nice to go outside in the morning. It's nice to get some fresh air. It's nice to, breathe it in, to get some sunlight, and it just puts me in a good mood. And that's why I go outside personally, just for that, mood boost that it gives you. It just puts you in a good place to start the rest of the day, to get to work, to, accomplish whatever you need to accomplish. And of course, like I said, outside of, it just making me feel good, there's the fact that it's good for sleep to get outside, to set your circadian rhythm and other stuff like that. But I do it just because it makes me feel kind of nice. And so at that point, I'll brush my teeth, and then the morning routine is pretty much done. It sets you up, it puts you in the right mindset for the rest of the day. And depending on what I have next, that will kind of determine how I branch off my morning routine from here. If I have to go to class, well, then I'll get a quick shower in, make some breakfast, make some lunch, and get going. Or if I don't have a class right away, like on the weekends or something, at this point, I will sit down and I will just work for a couple hours, okay? And then I'll finish up with my breakfast and stuff after, because I can get a lot of good work done in that fasted work block. And then I get to enter the rest of the day knowing that not only did I get that nice morning routine done, but I also got a good solid chunk of work done. And then I've not only stacked the wins from the morning routine, but I've stacked the wins from getting that big work task done as well. And so depending on if you have a weekend or if it's a morning class or no morning class, that might make some small changes to how exactly your routine looks. But the general basis, that first 30 minutes for me, that stays the same, because that's what puts me in the right mindset to do what I need to do during the rest of the day. Now, that's the full morning routine, but there's 2 points that I want to make before ending the video. And that's A, if that feels like a lot to you, if all of those, things that I do feels like a lot to you, that's okay, right? I started somewhere. I started not with all these habits. I started building one habit at a time. So first I would start weighing myself in the morning. Then I would start doing the, gratitude journaling. Then I would start meditating. Then, it didn't happen all at once. It was just, one at a time, stacking habits, building them up until I have that morning routine that I have now. And so you don't need to start with this full morning routine. You can just start by, saying, hey, this morning I'm going to wake up at 6:30 a.m. and I'm going to gratitude journal, or I'm going to go outside in the morning to get some fresh air. Like whatever it is, just build one habit at a time. That can be your action step for this video. It's not implementing a whole morning routine, which it could be, if you feel like that's something you can stay consistent with. But if it's during school time, starting that up can cause some stresses maybe. And so, build it up at a rate that's reasonable to you. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out, is that you can take this step by step. You just got to look at yourself and say, hey, are we improving? Are we getting better? Is the morning routine, fleshing out more and more and more? And also the other thing that I want to point out is that this is my morning routine. This works for me, okay? if this doesn't work for you, modify it, change it, do what does work for you. Don't fight an uphill battle. Don't, try to wake up at 6 a.m. if you have a practice that goes to 10 p.m. the night before. Like, don't do that, right? Because it's going to be difficult. You're going to be making it harder on yourself. So pick, times that work for you. Pick things that work for you. If you have a longer commute, maybe you got to wake up a little bit earlier, or, you need to modify your routine, or you need to, maybe you can't fit it all. Maybe the gratitude journaling has to be after school or before you go to bed or something, right? Like, you need to modify this for yourself, okay? This is an ideal situation for me that I built up for my life. And if your life is different, that's like trying to fit a puzzle piece in the wrong section, right? It's not going to work. You're going to be making it a lot harder on yourself. So take the habits. You can take the general outline, but modify it to fit your life, okay? And then you should really start to see the benefits of this. It's really nice to wake up and just be able to check off habits and, set your day up for a strong start, and to have to carry those wins into the rest of the day. 3 years ago, when I came across the idea of a morning routine, I didn't think it was going to make, that big of a difference, but I started one anyways. And it was probably, one of the best decisions I ever made, because it kind of kickstarted me to, get other things improving in my life, to start going to the gym, to start studying better, to, stop wasting time scrolling, to do all these different things. It all started with the morning, right? Because the morning is what's going to set up the rest of the day. So if you have a good morning, the chance of you having a good rest of the day is that much higher. So again, as an action step, pick a few items, 1 or 2 items off of my morning routine, and figure out a way to implement them, okay? It doesn't need to be exactly how I implemented them, right? Figure out what works with your schedule, but pick 1 or 2 things and start stacking those habits, get them in there, and you should start seeing some results. Because like I said earlier, the productivity techniques will only take you so far, and what's really going to take you, the distance is building up good habits, okay? And you can build up those good habits by stacking them in the morning in a good morning routine like I've done here. So that's it. I hope this video can help you get started on your morning routine so that it can make the difference that it did for me.